All right, today we are diving into a novel that really has been called a masterpiece since the moment it was published back in 1967. Of course, I'm talking about 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez. And with a big new series adaptation out, it is absolutely captivating audiences all over again. I mean, come on, that is one of the most legendary first lines in all of literature. It just hooks you instantly, doesn't it? It throws us right into this world where the past, the present, and the future, they all seem to be happening at the same time. You've got a man facing a firing squad, but he's remembering his childhood. It's this incredible trick that creates so much suspense right from the get-go. So to really get how this works, we've got to understand the absolutely audacious story at the heart of this book. Yeah, audacious is the right word. One critic put it perfectly. They said, the story is less about just history and facts and more like a dream of art. And that really hits the nail on the head. So what is this story? Well, at its core, it's a huge family saga. It follows 7 generations of the Buendia family, tracking their rise and their inevitable fall. It all starts when the family patriarch, José Arcadio Buendia, literally dreams up a utopian town called Macondo. He envisions this perfect city of mirrors, and then he goes and founds it in the middle of nowhere. But right from the start, this family is just haunted. They're terrified by this one single fear, that if family members have a child together, that child will be born with the tail of a pig. And this isn't just some weird curse. It's the engine of the whole story. It sets up this idea that your family's history, well, it's a destiny you just can't escape. Okay, so how on earth do you tell a story that's part dream, part history, part curse? Well, you do it with a style that Garcia Márquez basically perfected. And to unlock this book, you absolutely have to understand this style, magical realism. So what is magical realism? It's where these totally fantastical, impossible events are just woven into a realistic story. And here's the key. The characters treat it all as completely normal. It's not pure fantasy, right? The point isn't just to have magic for magic's sake. It's a way of looking at the world, a way to reflect reality, especially in Latin America, where the line between the everyday and the totally miraculous can feel, well, pretty blurry. Garcia Márquez himself had a great way of explaining this. He said, it's kind of a journalistic trick. Look, if you just say, there are elephants flying in the sky, people will think you're crazy. But if you say, there are 425 elephants flying in the sky, suddenly it sounds kind of believable, right? It's that super specific yet totally impossible detail that makes the fantastic feel real. And the book is just filled with these moments, all told with a completely straight face. You've got a plague of insomnia that makes an entire town forget everything, even the names of objects. There's a girl, Remedios the Beauty, who is so beautiful and pure that one day she just ascends into heaven while folding laundry. And you've got this forbidden lover who is constantly followed by a cloud of yellow butterflies. These aren't just quirky events. They're miracles and curses treated like everyday life in Macondo. Okay, so this magical style isn't just for show. It builds into the novel's really powerful themes. And the biggest one, well, it's right there in the title, solitude. And tied to that is this idea of inescapable cycle. So here's one of the craziest things about the book. The family keeps repeating the same names, generation after generation. You have a bunch of Orleanos and a bunch of José Arcadios. And it's not just the names that repeat. It's their personalities, their actions, their fates. The Orleanos are always these withdrawn, solitary thinkers. The José Arcadios are always impulsive, strong, and kind of doomed. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, and the family is just trapped, endlessly flipping between them, unable to break the pattern. This circularity gets so intense that at one point the family patriarch, José Arcadio Buendia, has this maddening realization that time isn't moving forward at all. He starts shouting that it's always Monday. It's this perfect, insane moment that captures the feeling of being in a loop. And that loop, that creates a deep, profound solitude. Each character is basically isolated, stuck on their predetermined track, unable to really connect with anyone or break free. And then you get the ultimate confirmation that this is all fated. It turns out the entire family history, everything that happens over 100 years, was written down in advance on some old parchments by a gypsy named Melquiades. This quote here is from his prophecy. It suggests their whole story, their 100 years of solitude, wasn't just a series of choices, it was a destiny, a prophecy that had to be fulfilled from beginning to end.
But here's where things get really fascinating. This idea of inescapable fate and magical events, it's not just a cool literary trick. Garcia Marquez is using it as a weapon, a way to talk about very real and often very brutal history.
You see, the story of Macondo is a powerful allegory for the history of Colombia and Latin America. So when Colonel Buendia fights all these endless, pointless wars in the book, that's a direct nod to things like the Thousand Days War. When a huge American banana company shows up and takes over the town's economy, that's reflecting the very real and very exploitative history of the United Fruit Company. And the big one, the massacre in Macondo, well, that mirrors a real-life atrocity. Yeah, in the book, more than 3,000 striking banana workers are shot and killed by the army. Just think about that number. And this is a direct reference to the very real banana massacre of 1928. In real life, the government tried to cover it up, saying only a few people died, but the true number is believed to be in the thousands.
And what happens in the book after the massacre? The government denies it ever happened. The official history is completely erased, and the town just collectively forgets. This is where magical realism becomes so powerful. Remember that plague of insomnia that caused amnesia? It's a metaphor for this. It's about how official stories can bury the truth, and how a whole country can be forced to forget its own past.
So it's this incredible, powerful blend of myth and reality, magic and politics that turned this book into an absolute global phenomenon. Let's talk about its legacy. I mean, the praise was just off the charts right from the start. The great poet Pablo Neruda called it the greatest revelation in the Spanish language since Don Quixote. I mean, that's about as high as praise gets. And of course, all this acclaim eventually led to Garcia Marquez winning the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1982 for creating these worlds where the fantastic and the real just collide. And its influence is just staggering. Just look at the numbers. It's been translated into 46 languages. It's sold over 50 million copies around the world. It's not just a major work of Latin American literature, it's a pillar of world literature. And the story is still finding new life. As we mentioned, there's a huge TV adaptation that just came out in 2024, introducing Macondo to a whole new generation. And what's really cool is that it was filmed in Colombia, in Spanish, which is exactly how Garcia Marquez always said it should be done. It just proves how timeless and relevant this story remains. So how does it all end? It's one of the most breathtaking endings ever written. The very last Buendia finally figures out how to read that gypsy's manuscript. And as he's deciphering it, he has this insane realization. He is reading the story of his own family in real time, as it is happening. And the final line of the prophecy predicts that the moment he finishes reading, a hurricane will wipe Macondo off the face of the earth. And it does. The prophecy is fulfilled, and the cycle is finally violently broken. And so the book leaves us with this huge, haunting question. It's a question not just for the Buendias, but for all of us. If our own history is a story that's already been written, are we just destined to repeat our own cycles of solitude and forgetfulness? Or, unlike the family in Macondo, can we actually find a second chance here on Earth?